So,
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Zaria Dogan. I am the Growth Marketing Coordinator here at Higher Level. You have joined our HiNotes webinar program today. Super excited with talking with Paul Crawford, the Safety Training Coordinator at John A. Logan College. Our topic today is OSHA inspections. Can't wait to hear what Paul is going to share with us. Before we get started, I want to touch base on a few housekeeping items. This webinar will last less than an hour. Everyone on the call is in listen-only mode. So if you do have any questions, there is a chat feature that you can put those questions in, and then we'll answer all of those questions at the end of the webinar. Also, if you would like to join us for our next HiNotes webinar, which is on July 26th, it would be on the secret sauce to creating a healthy work culture. For more information, you can always email me at hello@higherlevel.com and also share topics that you would like for us to present on as well. Thank you again, and Paul, I pass it off to you.
thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Crawford, John A. Logan College in the metropolitan area of Southern Illinois called Carterville. Welcome. We're going to talk about OSHA inspections today. Hopefully, I'll give you some information on how to avoid them. And if not, then what's the best practice when they arrive at your door. So I've been doing this for better than 30 years, safety director for major manufacturers, a couple of major manufacturers over the time. And I've been here with the college in this training mode for about 10 years. So prior to that, I was in the military and I was a trainer in the military, Fort Sill Artillery School. And prior to that, every child that grew up on my street was taught how to ride a bicycle by me. So I guess this is kind of in my DNA. So without further ado about me, all right, OSHA is committed to a strong, fair, and effective enforcement of safety health requirements in the workplace. OSHA inspectors are called compliance officers, safety and health officers. They're very well trained industrial hygienists. Some are safety professionals whose goal is to assure compliance with the OSHA standards, help employers and workers reduce on-job hazards and ultimately injuries, illnesses, and deaths in the workplace. That's what they're about. I think they do an amazing job. I'm not always a big fan of the government, but in this particular branch, I endorse it wholeheartedly. So inspection priorities. There are like 2,200 compliance officers in the country and approximately 7 million work sites. So the agency seeks to focus its resources on the greatest hazards, the most hazardous workplaces. I mean, if you can do the math real quickly, I think if they worked 365 days a year, all 2,200 of them, they would have to do like 8 or 9 inspections a day. So the likelihood that you're going to be inspected, as long as you've got your ducks in a row, is slim. That's the good news. So some of the things that they look for, they prioritize them, and the number one reason they'll come to visit you is if there's something considered imminent danger, situations, hazards that could cause death or serious physical harm. Compliance officers are going to ask employers to correct these hazards immediately or remove the endangered employees. In my past, I know of occasions, and some that I know of today, where the operation would choose to shut that particular part of the operation down. The organization would shut that operation down to eliminate the hazard altogether until they could figure out exactly how to abate it, get it back, and make it safe again. So there's a number of things you can do like that. You can shut it down. You can fix it immediately. You can take some other measures, whatever it may be. But there has to be no longer the concern for immediate danger or loss of life. The second thing they do is severe injuries and illnesses. and the employer has to report those. If you have a work-related fatality at your facility, then you need to notify those people at OSHA immediately. You can do that at OSHA.gov. OSHA.gov is a search engine, and if you go and right on the cover page, right on the opening, down on the right, about halfway down, you'll see how to report those things. Just a little note that says work-related fatalities. If there's the slightest chance that might be decided to be work-related after the fact, you might think it's natural causes and choose not to report it. And then later on, they may decide that it was caused from work. You're going to be held to that 8 hours. So make sure you come in under that 8-hour wire. Any work-related inpatient hospitalization has to be reported within 24 hours. Amputation, loss of an eye, all of that within 24 hours has to be reported as well. The third thing, workers' complaints, where a worker contacts OSHA and has allegations of hazards or violations, and they receive a pretty high priority. Employees may request anonymity so that you don't find out who they are. All right. Referrals of hazards from other federal, state, or local agencies, individuals, organizations, or the media. Sometimes, if the EPA, and it doesn't have to be you, it can be someone else from your industry, it gets the attention of the EPA, then the EPA may choose to contact OSHA and explain that either you or these other companies are having these kind of issues, and then you can be sought out by OSHA after that. The other thing is the municipality where you are. They can contact OSHA and make a referral that way. So there's other opportunities. Had a client one time who had the workers were in public, and somebody witnessed the employee or the worker doing something that wasn't totally safe. Well, you'd like to believe if it's your employer that they're going to contact you. But this civic-minded individual contacted OSHA, and then OSHA came down and they had photographs and everything else, and the organization was just blindsided. They didn't see it coming at all. So they can really come out of nowhere sometimes. Targeted inspections are aimed specifically at high hazard industries or individual workplaces that have experienced high rates in the past. Local emphasis program is an industry. You have local emphasis, you have regional emphasis. We're in Region 5, by the way, here in Illinois. And then we have site-specific targeting. So local emphasis program. OSHA or your local organization can decide that over a particular group. Let me just go back and give you an example of exactly how it happened here. There's a new company coming into town, a meat processing organization, and they're really, really large. And they're part of what come out as an emphasis program, and they fell into it as meat processors. So when we went to look and see exactly what it was, OSHA was looking at towards those folks, this emphasis program, we found out that it was just about exactly the same as every other industry, and the programs that they were failing to live up to the standards, so to speak. So a local emphasis program can do that. Regional emphasis program happens like Region 5. So every organization in Region 5 that falls under, say, lockout, tagout, or they fall underneath something like personal protective equipment standard, those kind of things. If there's a spike in the number of reports, then you can fall under an emphasis program. Site-specific targeting, if your organization has been targeted in the past, has not been targeted in the past, but has been cited in the past for certain things, then lots of times they can come back and say, we're coming back again to see you again. So those are the kind of things that we call targeted inspections, all right? We experience high rates of injury, illnesses, those sorts of things, and that happens. That may be you, or it may be somebody else in your industry has sort of initiated that. Follow-up inspections, okay? Once you have a citation, then you have a certain amount of time to fix it. That's called abatement, all right? Follow-up inspections following that abatement to see if it really happened or whether it was just said it was happened. And those happen from time to time. My experience with abating citations is send lots and lots of photographs. Tell them what you're going to tell them, what you did, tell them why you did it, tell them what's happened as a result, and lots of photographs. And then you can oftentimes forego. You won't have this follow-up inspection. An employer has to respond in writing within 5 days if OSHA calls you on the phone, and this happens frequently. I've known of this happening to an organization I worked for often enough. You get a phone call, and they'd say, "Hey, we've got a complaint. There's a concern about whatever it may be, the air quality or lockout tagout program I mentioned earlier. It can be any number of their standards, and an employee has phoned them and said this is an issue or made a complaint." So they can opt in what they call low priority hazards to telephone you and say, "This is what's going on. This is what we've heard. Tell us all about it." So you have 5 working days to identify any problems found and notify corrective actions taken or planned. This is very informal, as you might imagine, but it happens often. I mentioned early in this presentation, there are 2,200 compliance officers and 7 million work sites. So if they can do it with a phone call, then they're going to. So when they prepare to come to your site, they're going to research inspection history. They're going to look at work sites using various data sources. They'll look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They will look at the records that you have submitted previously, review the operation, the process. If you're a foundry, then they're going to look at what foundries do and the processes and uses and standards most likely to apply. So they gather all the appropriate personal protective equipment they need, testing instruments, measuring potential, anything like that. And then they bring that with you and they show up on your doorstep. So they're ready to go when they get there. The on-site inspection begins with a presentation of the credentials. They have to have a badge with a photograph and a serial number on it. And they'll knock on the door and they'll show you and they'll tell you who they are. Now, they don't have a search warrant. They do not have a search warrant at that point, but they can get one real quickly. And you'll start off on the wrong foot real quickly by denying them entry, because they'll just go get a search warrant. They'll come back and then they're aggravated. They're irritated with you. So it's a good idea to let them in. So an opening conference, it starts with an opening conference once they're in there, and they're going to explain why they're in your workplace. Why did they show up there, okay? They're going to describe the scope of the inspection, the walk around procedures. They're going to walk around. You're going to have an employee representative, or at least the employees certainly have that right. Oftentimes it's a union steward or someone like a lead person that's a member of the workforce. And then the employee representative and the employee can be interviewed. So they're going to walk around on the floor with representatives from the company and representative from the employees, excuse me. So the representative of the company, they can play an authorized representative, if any, also has the right to accompany him. Now, the compliance officers are going to make every effort to minimize interruption in production operation. They're really great about that. So at some point during the opening conference, the inspector is going to ask for several documents, including a copy of your company's written safety program. That safety program is a requirement, and it can contain things, or it should contain things such as management leadership. What role is management taking with regard to keeping their workers safe? How deeply are they involved? How do they follow up? All that sort of thing. Written safety program should talk about worker participation, how they're encouraged, what their participation is, what level of it, what level is their participation, and that needs to be documented in your program. Hazard identification, assessment, prevention, and control. I almost put a couple of blank, what we call job safety analysis or job hazard analysis, blank forms here, and I was afraid we'd just run out of time. But if you jot that down in your notes, job safety analysis or job hazard analysis, OSHA would expect that for tasks in your operation that you have done one of these. You can have 3 columns. The column on the left will be, or across the top, it'll be the work center or the operation. Down the left will be the tasks broken down step by step. To the center column, it'll say the potential hazards, the hazards and how people can get injured. And then the last column will say precautions that can be made to minimize or to eliminate that hazard. Okay, a lot of people think that the first thing they're going to go after is personal protective equipment. The first thing you're going to do when you find a hazard is to, excuse me, assign personal protective equipment. A lot of people are surprised to know that that's the last thing you should do. Your first priority when you're doing a job hazard analysis is to determine how can we engineer that hazard out of the process. Can we buy a less toxic product that'll do the job? Can we put a safe distance between the operator and the hazard? Those sorts of things we want to do first. The second thing we do are called, it's going to go right out of my mind, right out of my head, administrative controls. We put administrative controls in place, and instead of having everybody in your facility exposed to that hazard, you can say authorized employees only. That'll mean there's only 2 people that you have to worry about, and that really minimizes everybody's exposure. All right, so you can do that. And then the last thing you do is personal protective equipment. PPE is the least effective means of protecting people from that hazard. So anyway, look up job hazard analysis or job safety analysis, and you'll find lots of blank templates out there. Hazard identification assessment, we just talked about. Prevention and control, education and training. How do you go about making sure that your employees understand, they're educated, and they know what to do? Most people do. I know higher level is involved with a big company here, and they help very much so with new employee orientation, and that's the perfect place to start, pointing out the hazards and instructing people on how to work around those hazards, in and out and around those hazards. How do we train those people? We have monthly safety meetings. In fact, I'm fine, I got ahead of myself. How do we train those people? We have monthly safety meetings, we have weekly toolbox talks, that sort of thing. That all has to be part of your very formal written safety program. Safety training records is something they're going to want to see. They always want to see this. This is what ours look like. I can't begin to tell you how many times we've had phone calls from a client and says, we'd like to have copies of all of our sign-in sheets to indicate that we have had training on lockout, tagout, PPE, hazard communications, whatever the case may be. And this is what they want to see. They want to see this kind of documentation for safety training records. They always ask. Medical surveillance records, they'll want to see. These kind of things happen, like if you've done some environmental testing and found out you have high lead. When you have high lead in the area, or even loud noise, okay? When you measure it, you find out that people might have suffered an illness or an injury as a result, and those people will go under medical surveillance. they'll visit a doctor periodically, or you'll do more tests on them periodically. So if that happens, they'll want to see those surveillance records, how often you're doing that and what that looks like. The OSHA 300 log, if it's applicable, the OSHA 300 log is how you report serious injuries where people were hurt. If you've had to transfer them to a different job, light duty, that sort of thing, or they missed work, any of those things, they end up on the OSHA log, and OSHA is going to want to see that. OSHA required programs, for those programs, jot that down there in what you see there in red. If you put it in a search engine, Google it, summary of the most common programs required by the OSHA standards. It will bring right up exactly every training program or every topic that you need to train people in your operation on. Summary of the most common programs required by the OSHA standard. Give you a minute to write that down. So the actual walk around, where they're actually out on your shop floor, following the open conference, that's what's going to happen. All right, they're going to walk through portions of the workplace, particularly those areas. They can be those areas that are only covered by that inspection, and the reason they're there to begin with. You can guide them through your operation, but if they tend to want to go somewhere, you're better off to allow them to go that direction. But try to guide them covertly, it's probably a good word, into the area where they want to see. All right, they are inspecting for hazards that could lead to employee injury or illness. So if they see things along the way, they can look at those, and they can determine whether or not you need cited on those things. The compliance officer is also going to review worksite injury and illness records and the posting of the OSHA poster. The official OSHA poster is supposed to be located in any common area where people can see it. Everybody can see it. All right, it's mandatory. It's required. On the left side, all workers have the right. It's workers' rights, and on the right side is employers' requirements to make sure those rights are met. Okay, and it tells you down there. It tells people down there at the bottom how they can contact OSHA. What time are we supposed to be finished?
10:30.
10:30. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So during the walk around, compliance officers may point out some apparent violations that can be corrected immediately. You are well advised to make that happen if you can. If that's done prior to the closing interview, the closing meeting, kudos to you. All right. So try to make that happen. The best advice I can possibly give you is anytime I was involved in these sort of things, I looked at it like a learning experience. All right, don't have a chip on your shoulder. Don't be rude. Just look at it like a learning experience. So if you can correct things immediately, that bodes well for you, the employer. While the law requires that these hazards that they see have to be cited, prompt correction is a sign of good faith on the part of the employer. There's very little chance you'll be fined as a result. Compliance officers try to minimize work interruptions. I mentioned that already. So at a closing conference, following the walk around, the compliance officer holds a closing conference with the employer and the employee representatives to discuss what they've found. Possible courses of action are recommended or suggested in this meeting. Those are courses of action you may take. You may want to shut an operation down. Again, it can include informal conference with OSHA. You can request an appointment with OSHA to sit down and talk about it. If you don't think that it's really a violation, that sort of thing, you can contest citations and propose penalties. So the compliance officer also discusses consultation services and employee rights. They do have some consultation services. So he's going to talk about all of that stuff in the closing conference. It's this part of it is probably the most formal part of the whole process. So speaking of violations, the top 10 for 2022. Fall protection. There was no fall protection made available to people working at workplaces up high. Hazard communications is all about chemical use. Ladders, people use ladders incorrectly. Ladders are supposed to be inspected every time they're used. That doesn't mean a checklist where we go check, sign off and date it. It means that we look at it up and down, and we look for flaws in the ladder, hazards. And then annually, what's called a competent person is supposed to do those and document that, ladders. I don't know too many people that do that. And I also don't know too many people that have been cited, but obviously they're cited for some things, because ladders is number 3 in 2022. Respiratory protection, people who require respirators, there's some really tight, stringent requirements on how they're stored, how they're used, what kind of filters are used in them, all that sort of thing. And that's number 4 on the list. Scaffolding is a big thing for construction, and that it's whether it's assembled correctly and used correctly, that sort of thing. Lockout, tag out, ladies and gentlemen, is the most effective standard OSHA ever promulgated. I mean, it started saving lives, limbs immediately, and it's pretty strict. OSHA talks lots of times in very vague terms. Not the case with this. It's very specific about what you do. And if you don't have a lockout tagout program, there are some plug and play kind of things on the internet. I don't like those things, but you can use them as a draft maybe for your operation. But if you just put the name of your company in every blank, a compliance officer is going to see that real fast. Powered industrial trucks are forklifts generally, okay? There's several other things called powered industrial trucks, including powered pallet jacks, battery-powered pallet jacks, powered industrial trucks, and the training that they get. That training has to happen every 3 years, and it has to be a written test and a practical evaluation of how well people can do that job. Fall protection training requirements. You notice we saw fall protection number 1 was probably the actual going in process, but the training that the people need is being ignored or evaded or in something along those lines. Personal protective equipment, life-saving equipment, eye and face protection. Those things are all important, and obviously OSHA. And then machine guarding. Machine guarding is a big thing too, that I'll be glad to elaborate with anybody anytime if they need to know more. But those are the top 10, and generally plus or minus 1 or 2, those are always the same 10 year after year after year. So when an inspector finds violations of OSHA standards or serious hazards, they can issue citations and fines. They must issue a citation and propose penalty within 6 months of the violation's occurrence. Citations describe the OSHA requirements that you have allegedly violated. It has a list of proposed penalties. I'll show you those in a second, and give a deadline. For correcting the alleged hazards. So you've got to abate it before a certain date. Now you can debate that that's not far enough out. Most of your employees, or if your employees are there, they might debate that it's too close or that it's too far out. You say it's too close. That backwards. All right. So yeah, make sure you take that date very, very seriously. Violations are categorized. They're willful, serious, other than serious, de minimis, failure to abate, that's within the date time that I mentioned earlier, and repeated citations. So here they are. A type of violation that's serious, okay? Concerned about immediate health or safety issues. The minimum penalty is not a whole lot, $1,036, but it can go up to $14,502. Other than serious, okay? Yes, It's legitimately a hazard, but there's no concern for immediate concern for loss of life or whatever the case is. It could be zero. It's more likely not going to be, but it could be 14,502. Willful or repeated? Willful. You've got a policy. It says they have to wear safety glasses. It says they have to wear steel-toed shoes, whatever the case is. And OSHA finds out that you're not enforcing your policy. The fact that you have a policy indicates to them that you know the requirement. The fact that it's not happening could mean to them that you are willfully not following what the rules as you knew them. So obviously, minimum penalty is $10,000. $145,000 is possible. When I'm talking to your employees, which I do frequently, that's what I do. I come to your operation, I do conduct safety meetings to your people. I tell them all the time that the company doesn't have any option. Once you do a job hazard analysis to determine that this is required, and if it's PPE, then they have to wear it. They don't have any choice in the matter. They have to wear it. If somebody's injured and somebody gets something in their eye and they have to go to the doctor, and it doesn't turn out to be a big deal, but maybe they had some medication, prescription medication, that goes on the OSHA 300 log. If 2 months later somebody gets something in their eye, the same operation, and maybe they have to go to the emergency room and have something picked out of their eye, that's an OSHA recordable incident on the 300 log. And then somebody on that same operation loses an eye 6 months down the road. OSHA is going to call that willful, and they're probably going to give a $145,000 fine for every person working on that job because you're not enforcing the policy. So it can get pricey. It can get pricey. Posting requirements. You saw there that that required poster that I put up a little bit ago. It has to be put up. There's an OSHA 300A. The 300 log has all the OSHA reportable injuries on it. The 300A is a consolidated form that has to be posted, I think by the 1st of February every year for 3 months, something along those lines. But it has to be posted for everybody to see. And there's that date. Failure to abate by the date designated can cost you $14,500 per day for every day past that date. If you don't think you can make that date, you need to notify OSHA as early as you possibly can. You've got to buy a part. You've got to rebuild a machine, and it's going to take time. Then they have to know that you're not going to make that date exactly. But what you'll have to do is you'll have to compensate somehow by possibly shutting that equipment down, by closing down that bay or whatever the case is, to make sure that nobody is exposed to that following that abate date. It can be pretty costly. Having said that, on a number of times we've gone to Fairview Heights. Me and a past employer have gone to Fairview Heights and explained our case and had the penalty reduced. So it's possible to do if you think you're in the right. So in settling a penalty, OSHA has a policy of reducing penalty for small employers, those acting in good faith, all right? For serious violations, OSHA can reduce the proposed penalty based on the gravity of the alleged violation. But no good faith adjustment will be made for alleged willful violations. That is just like blatantly ignoring the rules. You can go to www.osha.gov. OSHA.gov, that search engine, you will find everything you want out there. You can put in forklift safety. You can put in forklift training. You can put in PPE enforcement, anything like that. It's search engine, and it'll come up. In this particular case, /penalties, and they'll show you exactly what I showed you there. So if you want to appeal, when OSHA issues a citation, you have the opportunity for an informal conference with the OSHA area director up in Fairview Heights, in this particular, or in our area. all right? You can discuss the citation, the penalties, the dates, any other information pertinent to the inspection, all right? And the agency and the employer may work out a settlement agreement to resolve the matter and to eliminate the hazard. OSHA's primary goal is correcting hazards and maintaining compliance. So if you think you're right and you want to appeal it, by all means you should. Alternatively, employers have 15 working days after receipt of a citation and proposed penalties to formally contest it, okay? Formally contest it, the alleged violation and the penalties by sending a written notice to the area director. OSHA is going to forward that contest to the OSHA Review Commission for independent review. I've never known this to happen in my personal experience or anybody close enough to me. Alternatively, citations, penalties, and abatement dates that are not challenged by the employer become final order. It's a final order by the Health Review Commission. Workers' rights. Workers have the right to working in conditions that do not pose a risk of serious harm. No known hazards for serious harm. Workers have the right to receive information and training in a language and a vocabulary the worker understands about workplace hazards. We struggle not a lot here in Southern Illinois, but we have a hard time sometimes finding somebody that can translate into Spanish here. So that's a concern. I read recently that there's an employer in Chicago that has workers speaking 17 different languages. I can't imagine how he gets all the information out, but it's got to be a struggle. So it has to be in a language and a vocabulary they can understand about the hazards, how to prevent them from being hurt, injured, and the like. All right. So review the records of work-related injuries and illnesses. They have the right to see that 300A. So you have to post that. You have to post that. Workers have the right to file a complaint asking OSHA to inspect their workplace. They have that right. They believe there's a serious hazard or their employer is not following OSHA rules. OSHA is going to keep all the identities confidential. Exercising their rights under the law without retaliation, including reporting an injury or raising health or safety concerns, they have that right. If OSHA has any idea, or if you've got an employee who reported something to OSHA and then was punished as a result, the worker has, if OSHA can find that the worker's been retaliated against for using their rights, they have to file a complaint with OSHA, and it's not pretty at all. They have that right. You can't fire them. You can't transfer them to another job. You can't promote somebody over them. So it's very difficult to prove that or disprove that. Under the Occupational Safety Act of 1970, that's how long it's been around, employers are responsible for providing safe and healthful workplaces for their employees. Safe and healthful. OSHA's role is to help ensure those conditions for America's working men and women by setting and enforcing these standards and providing training and education and assistance. So that's that. You can get them at OSHA.gov. That's where I recommend that you go. You can call those phone numbers that you see there. I was going to make another point. OSHA's role is to ensure these conditions. Policies and procedures should be very, very specific to your operation. They shouldn't be vague when you build your program. They shouldn't be really, really vague. And one that's coming at us now that a lot of people don't know about is OSHA wants soon formally going to require that you have a heat stress policy. What do you do for your workers when it starts to get too hot in the shop? How are you going to make sure that they're safe and healthy? So that's coming at us and will be before next summer for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I have to talk about today. I'm glad to answer any questions shortly. My boss is going to talk to you here just a little bit about our program and what we do here at John A. Logan College, and then we'll open it for some questions. And when she shows the slide with our email addresses on it, jot those down because we're always happy to answer questions down the road if need be. So thank you very much, and here's Emily.
Great, thank you, Paul. As Paul mentioned, my name is Emily Spann. I'm the manager for workforce education here at John A. Logan College. And while we had a captive audience, we just wanted to take just a couple minutes just to give you an overview of our workforce development office. So you can see here by this slide, I kind of view it as we have 4 varying pillars. So we have community education, workforce training and development, our highway construction and career training program, and then our OSHA and safety program, which Paul kind of talked about. But just to kind of give you an overview of our office to see if there's any way that we can help you as an employer or your employees, or even your next door neighbor as we start talking here about community education. So our community education arm of the office really is the fun or the educational classes offered through our office. So right now we are right in the middle of all of our summer camps. And so we have a variety of summer camps. I mentioned a few here. Anything from drawing superheroes to emoji cartoons to archery to science camp. We have a really cool science camp that's happening now with one of our professors here at John A. Logan. But also during the fall and spring semesters, we have a variety of classes. Again, if you're looking for something fun to do, or if you're looking to learn a new skill, anything from dog obedience classes, intro to chess and voiceovers, American Sign Language, photography, computer classes, short stories, quilting, salsa dancing. Again, these are just a few examples of some of the classes that we offered last fall and spring. So I know that Joe, our coordinator, is working on our fall classes. So if you're in the area and you're interested in taking any of those classes, please, please, please check us out on the website, because registration will be opening towards the end of the summer. For our workforce development and training, this is kind of divided into 2 different areas, so that we do offer some classes that are open to the public. So right now, some of our healthcare industry focused classes are really taking off and really popular. So everything from our basic phlebotomy classes to advanced phlebotomy, IV therapy, basic dysrhythmia, food production, pharmacy technician program, and even our waterworks. Those are classes that we put on our website that are open to the public. So anyone that may be wanting to renew their licensure or increase their skills, they're welcome to sign up for those classes. And then kind of the other arm for workforce development and training is we really work closely with our area businesses and seeing what needs they have for their employees. So right now, class that's taken off over the last couple of months is our soft skills class. And so we've been working with a few area companies to go into their organizations and talk about what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean for stress management? How do you, what are those communication skills that you can learn as a leader to really be effective on your team? And so that's an area that we're seeing some growth in, is also our computer skills. So we offer a lot of Excel classes, again, for those that are looking to upgrade their Excel skills. One thing that's great about the workforce development and training area is we're always looking to add new classes or revamp classes, because we understand the needs are constantly changing. And so that's, we have the flexibility to be able to offer the curriculum or the courses that any of our area businesses or organizations may need. Our office also oversees our CPR program, so we follow the American Heart Association curriculum. Again, our coordinator, Joe, oversees our CPR classes. So again, this is kind of two-pronged, that we offer classes to the public. So those are available on our website. Once Joe has those dates and instructors secured for the fall semester, she'll start putting those up and we'll accept registrations. But then also we coordinate instructors that can go into businesses and organizations and offer them to their employees. We also offer courses here at John A. Logan if businesses or organizations would like to send their folks here on campus. So we have a variety of courses that we offer based on your certification that you need, but our office does oversee our CPR programs. The third area of our office is our highway construction and career training program. This is an excellent program that is funded by the Illinois Department of Transportation in an effort to increase access to highway construction job for minorities, women, and disadvantaged individuals. This is a 12-week program. We run one class during the fall semester and one class during the spring semester. And then it's an excellent opportunity for all of the students and participants that participate in this program. They get so many skills that make them marketable to either a variety of trades or unions or whatever career option they're looking into. So for students that complete this 12-week course, you know, they get a variety of carpenter skills, concrete finishing, blueprint reading. They have mathematic classes for the trades, resume building. They also get, you know, first aid and CPR certified. They have experience on forklift safety, aerial lift, and then they also get their OSHA 10. So we're currently accepting applications for our fall class. We'll start our interviews and the orientation process towards the end of the month of July, beginning of August. So it's coming fast. And then our fourth area is what Paul oversees. So as he mentioned, you know, he has a 30 years experience talking about OSHA and safety and how to ensure that our businesses and organizations in the area are complying and keeping their employees safe. So we offer a variety of trainings. Paul's an excellent trainer. He's willing to come to your business or organization. If you're, you know, in our district, we offer a variety of classes here at John A. as well, that if you yourself or you're able to send your employees to campus, you know, we love to have you. So again, that's just a very brief kind of examples of some of his trainings that he gives, anything from lockout, tag out, emergency action plans, work zone safety, you know, et cetera. So he's always willing to, again, just much like our workforce and trainings, if there's a specific area or specific concern for your business or organization, he's willing to do the research and present on that topic if needed. So as he mentioned, here's our last slide with all of our contact information. If you're not for sure who to ask based on this list, you're welcome to just email our general office email that goes to a listserv to a few of us, and then we can, you know, absolutely get you in contact with the right individual. And that email is Center for Workforce Development, so cwd@jalc.edu. So again, if you're interested in CPR or learning more about community education or any of our workforce programs, we're happy to help you out. So I'll leave this up on the slide, but I'm going to turn it back over to Paul. So if you have any questions for him regarding his presentation or anything, you know, regarding the office, we're happy to answer anything.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Guys, a couple of things to elaborate on real quickly. Our HCCTP program is always engaged with all the unions in the area. And it's not unusual at all for a good number of those people to have jobs before the program's over, before the 12 weeks is up. So it really is a very effective program. It's a great, great program. The other thing is all the OSHA training is free. There's no cost at all to anybody for the safety training, the OSHA training for your organization. So with that, I think we've got a mediator that's going to help us with the questions. Yes?
I'm not seeing any questions.
I always look at that like we did a really, really good job. we answered the questions before they could be asked. But guys, strictly for myself, you see my email address right there. Email me with questions and stuff, and I'll try my best to get back to you. I mean, I have a pretty full schedule, so it might not happen right away, but I'll try my very best. And so will anybody else on that list, quite honestly. So thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Higher level.
Thank you, Paul and Emily. It was very informative, especially with the line of business we're in. We definitely try to stay up on top of OSHA regulations, for sure.
Good. Glad it was what you needed.
Yes, thank you. And before we wrap up, as I mentioned earlier, we do have our July HiNotes on July 26th. So if you are interested in attending that webinar, feel free to email me at hello@higherlevel.com. Or you can go to our website and just register from there. Again, thank you, Paul and Emily, for that informative information. And everyone have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye now.